everybody. Welcome to the world's greatest Bronze Age Spider-Man podcast. Here comes the Spider-Cast. I'm your co-host, Michael, and as always, I'm joined by
Joshua Marvell, and today we're going to be taking a look at Spidey comics from May of 1988.
Right, and this is a very big one. We'll save what we're doing later, but if you saw the thumbnail, you know what it is. But we're also joined by G.I. Jolie.
That's me. Hi.
Woo! And also, Bex Luthor's back after a 2-week absence.
Woo.
Yeah, I didn't die. I'm here.
Perfect.
For anyone worried. And don't worry, shout out to Paul. I am making that list of my favorite covers, so don't you worry. I saw your comment. It brought me back to full health.
Thanks for listening, Paul.
Yeah.
And also, we have a very special guest. I've been asking him to come on for a long time, but he's finally here. Andrew Banks. Thanks for joining us, Andrew.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
And before we jump into what we're talking about, we have to know, are you a Spidey fan?
I am, although I have not read Spidey comics in quite some time. I know that probably my earliest introduction was smack in the middle of Maximum Carnage, not knowing a thing about Venom or Carnage. And which is... interesting, without foreshadowing too much of what's to come. But, and then, the Harry as the Green Goblin, their last fight, or, at the time, early 90s.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah, and so, I've always just sort of peeked in on Spidey every now and then over the years. And it's like, wow, they've changed quite a bit.
So when you jumped in, was it... Because I would have imagined that was a confusing time to just jump into Spider-Man, but were you okay with it when you got into it when you were a kid?
Yeah, absolutely. Although, admittedly, at that point when I was a kid, I did more of picture looking than the actual reading part. And then when I went back and reread them as an adult, and I was just like, I should probably go back and read more of these.
Now, have you ever read any of these 80s Spider-Man comics before?
I have read some of them. Although not enough of them to identify certain stories and art styles with artists and their respective writers.
Cool. All right, well, here we go. That's what we do the show. We're here to educate the public, right? Kind of, maybe, hopefully.
We're here to read comics with them.
Yeah, and have fun, right? We're just here to have
That's right.
fun. Anyway. And okay, so speaking of fun, we're going to review... Web of Spiderman number 38, but before we jump into this, I want to ask if anyone noticed who drew the cover to this issue.
I did!
Oh,
I noticed!
Me!
Oh, pick Jolie, though. She'll know more about it.
No.
Jolie, do you know who drew it?
Wait, what do you mean I'll know more about it? We just noticed the name, right?
Yeah.
Becca?
Web of Spider-Man, yeah.
Well, you just know more about everybody.
Bob Budianski. So, Andrew, we had Bob Budianski as a guest at one of our comic conventions about 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, nice!
Yeah, he's the creator of all the Transformers names and character designs. Not the toys, but the comic book backstories. So. Okay.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was trying to figure out who did the cover. It's like, this is very distinct from the rest of the issue. And now I see the signature on the side, and it's like, of course it happens during the recording.
Yeah, this is a super fun cover. I'm not really sure when Hobgoblin got these, skull bombs. I guess this is kind of, new to this, new version of Hobgoblin.
Right, could be. Yeah, we should point out, Andrew, this is the second Hobgoblin. This is not Ned Leeds or Roderick Kingsley. It's Jason Macadale, but you know that because you read the story.
Yes, and the part I do remember is that this was at a time when... they hadn't revealed Roderick Kingsley as the true Hobgoblin yet.
Exactly. Right. So there you go, Josh.
Yeah, so Web of Spiderman number 38. This is a strange one. It really felt like a fill-in. Sure did feel like a fill-in to me.
Glad it wasn't me.
So we start off with Hobgoblin. We have this actually really cool opening. Kind of terrifying. We don't see Spider-Man or Peter at all. Hobgoblin's flying through the city. He wants to get revenge on Kingpin for betraying him and for kind of pushing him off to the side. So he goes to his building. He's finger blasting people left and right. He's throwing pumpkin bombs. Oh, yeah, that's right. By the way, for anybody who doesn't know, Hobgoblin calls it finger blasting people. That's canon. That's canon, folks. So
How did I miss that?
yeah.
I don't know. The blasters are pretty large. I don't know how you would miss it.
No, but the actual reference, the visual.
Oh,
I'm not
if
sure
it
he
says it
actually
in
says
this
it
issue.
in this one, but
Oh,
throughout
okay.
his appearances so far, he's always talking about finger blasting Spider-Man.
I'm sorry.
So after he's like destroying half the building, he's like, blowing people up. He runs into the Arranger, and he kind of tells him, like, listen, you're washed up. You're not as good as the old Hobgoblin. That's why Kingpin hasn't hired you for any like cool jobs recently. You're nothing. You'll never be shit. This is my new friend, Tombstone, and he's going to throw you out the window now. But listen, if you can kill Spider-Man, then we'll talk, okay? But until then, get the hell out of here. Don't talk to me or Tombstone or Kingpin or my son ever again. So as he's falling down the building, he calls his glider with his like telepathy like band. Like he's got something built into the suit that he can mind control the glider to kind of follow him. And I don't know if this is something that is like we've talked about before, or even with like Green Goblin, if it's like psychically linked to him or not. But it is important for this issue to note that he calls it psychically to save him after falling down the building. Then we cut over to Mrs. Muggins.
Well, it's not psychic; it's cybernetic remote control.
Right. So yeah, it's like a like it's psychically linked to him through a technology. So it's not like a superpower he has. It's like something in his suit that allows him to like feed his thoughts to the glider to do, like a remote control.
Right.
So we cut over to Mrs. Muggins at Peter's apartment, and she's upset. She's pissed off. She bursts into his apartment, and it turns out that Peter and MJ are throwing this big party. It's some sort of like ball, I guess, that MJ is throwing. I can't even remember why they're throwing a party, to be honest. Is it because they're moving?
Yes, it's like a moving part, last hurrah of the apartment party.
It confused me a little bit because I actually read Amazing first, and there's a different reason why they move out of the apartment in that one. So I was like a little bit confused as to why they're throwing a party here. But
that is a good point.
Anyways, they're everybody's here. It's like packed. It's like shoulder to shoulder. So many people are here. We kind of get introduced to this like old man that is like hitting on all of these like supermodels that MJ invited to this party, and he's like running around saying inappropriate jokes. Mrs. Muggins is like upset that everything's like all of this commotion is happening. Peter still hasn't paid his last month's rent before he leaves, so she's like tracking him down. She's constantly making a reference to this dog that keeps barking and causing mayhem, even though we don't ever see a dog in the issue.
There's one in the big shot panel. There's a dog on the couch.
Is there a dog? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
is it
I
holding
think it's
beer
Flash's
like
dog.
they said it was?
Oh, it's Spuds McKenzie.
oh, it
Does
sure
anyone remember
is.
Spuds McKenzie?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I remember the name.
It's an 80s like
Beer.
dog. Yeah, beer.
Like
it's
Budweiser
a
or
mascot
something.
for a Budweiser or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Oh, of course, because Mary Jane's a supermodel and she knows everybody. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so I guess spoiler alert if anybody's really looking forward to this, but the only reason why they have a dog in there and they make her upset about the dog is so she can make a Wizard of Oz, I'll get you and your little dog too joke.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's
So-
some heavy lifting.
Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch. Anyways, Peter is like so busy trying to like entertain people and get hors d'oeuvres. He's like completely out of it. He keeps drinking punch just to like rehydrate himself. to get himself like back on his feet to keep. Sorry, my dog is
Drinking beer on the couch.
drinking beer on the couch.
He's like, I know Spuds McKenzie.
we see Peter's like partying with Bambi, Randy, and Candy. We get like, you know, this old dude hitting on them again. We cut over to Hobgoblin and we get a little bit of his backstory. So that way we know it's not Roderick Kingsley or any of the past Hobgoblins. Then we cut back, and he's like flying through the city causing mayhem. We cut back to the party. There's loud music going on. Peter gets a phone call, and it's Harry Osborn. He's on his car phone, and he says, listen, Pete, Hobgoblin is terrorizing the city. I don't really feel like going to that side of the city because I've already had too many run-ins with him, and like my dad was a Green Goblin. I don't feel like I need to get involved with this. So Peter realizes like, shit, I've actually got to leave this party and go stop Hobgoblin because it's the right thing to do. MJ might be pissed, but I'm going to go do it. So he downs his last glass of punch and he gets dressed and he realizes that something is off. Like something's going on. He shoots his web and he like misses the building completely. As he's swinging, he's like a little like dizzy. He realizes that he's actually drunk and somebody spiked the punch. So when he finally does catch up with Hobgoblin is kind of like evenly matched with him almost because he's drunk. So they're fighting in this like construction area. Spider-Man is like having trouble keeping up with Hobgoblin. Hobgoblin is talking about eating Spider-Man, by the way, like eating his flesh until his corpse has nothing but bones and stuff. It's so weird. Like he's gonna bite every succulent morsel of his body. It's so weird. I don't know why Hobgoblin all of a sudden is like a cannibal monster, but he's able to win at the end of the day by swinging over to a like electrical pole, and it starts to mess with the psionic link to his glider, and his glider starts flying out of control, and in a very Team Rocket way he blasts off into the sunset, and that's how Peter wins the battle at the end of the day. And then we go back to the party. He brings Harry with him, and he gets upset that somebody spiked the punch. Who was it? Oh no, it was Mr. Muggins. That's right. The old dude was Mrs. Muggins' husband, and she's obviously very upset about this. She wants her rent. Peter, in his drunken stupor, leans in and kisses Mrs. Muggins goodbye as this is his last day in the apartment, and he will never have to see her ever again. The end. Jesus. This is it was an interesting story. I feel like it doesn't really match the feel of what they wanted this Hobgoblin to be. Like, even the cover makes me think like this might be a pretty dark story. This is the return of the Hobgoblin. Macadale is finally going to be like becoming that supervillain that we all know the Hobgoblin to be. And no, he wasn't even able to defeat a drunk Peter Parker that couldn't swing anywhere. Like, it's a shame.
Well, the thing is, actually rereading this, I really did enjoy the entire issue except for the climax of this fight, where Hobgoblin loses basically by accident, right?
Right.
It's just very anticlimactic, and I one of my pet peeves about superhero comics is when a villain wreaks havoc to get the attention of the hero, right? Instead of actually doing something logical or to gain something, he just wreaks havoc. I can't stand that trope.
Punch this building until Spider-Man shows up.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was my issue with it, but
it was fun. Like, I had fun reading it. But it was a bit of a letdown that this Hobgoblin felt kind of like a joke.
I agree. But yeah, definitely fun, and the artwork helped, which we'll talk about in a minute. But Andrew, I want to know your reaction to this issue. I'm assuming this is the first time you've read this, right?
This is the first time I've read this issue, yes.
Okay, so what was your impression of Web of Spider-Man 48?
Well, some points that have been touched on already, that yes, it did feel like a filler issue, like a sort of a filler episode in a TV show. I enjoyed it. It was probably my least favorite of the three. But the thing I absolutely loved about it is that the artwork all felt like the visual storytelling of the artwork was fantastic because everything felt like a storyboard. Right. Especially with the opening, like Hobgoblin is wreaking havoc. It's like, oh, wow, he actually feels like a threat here. And of course, as he's talking to the Arranger, you see Hobgoblin's reaction in the reflection. And then in the next panel, he's going into another spiel. Meanwhile, Tombstone's sneaking up on him. And they frame it in such a way that you can see. It's like, I should probably be paying attention to this. And and just there are several panels like that through it. Even during the party sequence, there are little parts in the background where they sort of pay themselves off later, especially with just the stupid little things they're talking about as well. So yeah, I think that was the biggest thing I liked about it. The only other thing I didn't like about it, and I think this has been kind of a trope in older comics as well, is when a character thinks to themselves, especially about a gadget, and it's like, I've got to calm down. Oh wait, my cybernetic remote control that I made out of adamantium and blah 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 blah. which to me, if you're thinking that, you're already dead. He's already street pizza. But if but for some reason I'm okay with it coming from Tombstone, because if it's exposition, then it still explains it for everyone else in the scene, but as well as for the reader. So at least that part made sense. But yeah, it was certainly a fun issue more than anything. I think we need more of drunk Spider-Man.
Right, I agree. G.I. Jolie, what'd you think of this one?
Okay. I think I'm the only one that liked this party. It was ridiculous. This is exactly how all the finger blasting and the ridiculousness of Hobgoblin is exactly what I would expect from Hobgoblin. This is probably the worst Hobgoblin, though. Like, before I thought the other Hobgoblin was very, sort of silly. This guy is even sillier.
Yeah.
Like, no one takes him seriously. What did he used to be called? The Pumpkin Master?
The
Jack-o'-lantern.
Jack-o'-lantern.
That's right.
Close enough.
Pumpkin Master, maybe even cooler.
Right? So it's like, it's almost as if these other bad guys, I forgot about that scene where they pretty much are like, get out of our bad guy hangout. Like, you suck.
Yeah.
Like, I feel bad for you, but I do not feel bad. You do suck. And then, let's see. I think the part of the story that I loved the most was the party. It just happened to be, it was like another, things for Mary Jane and Peter to do now that they're married comic. And how do we shoehorn Peter as Spider-Man in? Oh, we give us the sob story about how no one takes the new Hobgoblin seriously. Whatever. I'm living for Mrs. Muggins as the new Baba Yaga, though. The Baba Yaga of Brooklyn. She is there, she is there to find her lecherous husband. Ew. Mr. Baba Yaga, who is straight up sexually harassing our favorite DIYers, Randy, Bambi, and Candy. And but also, why is J. Jonah Jameson at the party? Why would he show up to this party?
Yeah.
We gotta have everybody in there, right? I don't know.
But him of all people, I feel like wouldn't go to this party. Robbie, sure. Robbie knows. We all know he knows that Peter is Spidey. But I feel like no one would invite Jonah, JJJ. Come on. He's his boss, sort of. / he hates Spider-Man, and everyone also kind of sort of hates him too.
The obligatory invite.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably just tagged along because Joy's there and Lance is there.
I guess everybody at the office is leaving to go to Mary Jane and Peter's party, and he's the only one that doesn't know. Oh, so sad.
That'd be a little weird.
Could be really funny.
It's strange though, because I don't think up to this point JJ has had like a close relationship with Peter, but he talks in this issue like, oh, he's like a second son to me. Like we're like family.
Yeah, that I found strange.
I think it's like total sarcasm. Not sarcasm, but like mocking kind of way, you know?
Yeah. And I didn't realize, because I didn't really notice the whole, like Andrew was saying, there's like little things that happen that pay off. Like one of the little things that happens is throughout this party, Peter's just plying himself with drinks. And like, did he think that even if someone hadn't spiked the punch, why was there no alcohol in it in the first place? Like, it just seems like it would be that kind of party.
Right. That's a good point.
So
very good point.
He had like 50 of them before he went out, and he didn't feel drunk until he started swinging around in the air, and he didn't just like go home.
Oh yeah.
Like
it's
I don't
plot
know.
punch.
Right? And he's like, well, Harry's got to come to the party. I better save everyone's life.
Well, he was drunk. Of course he's going to go fight Hobgoblin so his friend can go to the party.
Right? He's like, oh. And like, oh, sorry. One more thing. I don't understand Harry's hair. Still don't understand
No one
it.
does. No. It's one of the great mysteries of the Marvel Universe. No one can explain it.
Is that Velcro, like, Fred Savage style hair?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Cornrows. Anyway, Bex Luthor, what'd you think of this one?
I think I love this one too.
Okay.
The idea of drunk Spider-Man, I like that idea so much because I think this is Peter's first time being drunk. I don't think he's ever consumed enough alcohol to get drunk because he's been Spider-Man since he was 16, and he was a good boy, so he's not drinking underage, right? So any alcohol that this man had, 2 or 3 drinks, probably wasn't going to affect him with his spider metabolism. So this 50 drinks, this is probably his first time drunk, which is why he doesn't realize he's drunk. Because he's never experienced.
There was an issue.
Cheap drunk Peter.
Thought he was drunk.
Oh, really?
That we talked about.
Like he was so inexperienced with booze that he didn't know if he was drunk or not.
I can't remember where he was like, oh my God, I'm drunk. And then at the end, they're like, you're not drunk. It wasn't spiked at all. It's all in your head.
Dumbass.
And then it went away.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I love the setup of Hobgoblin just getting his ass shredded because of these other like bad guys are like, you suck, get it. We don't want you in our clubhouse, like leave. If you can kill Spider-Man, like he's ever gonna kill Spider-Man, then you can come play with us. But until then. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll go kill Spider-Man. Spider-Man's wasted and just like toying with him and then just easily defeats him. Like, whoever wrote this hates Mercantile's Hobgoblin, and that's fair. Treat him like garbage. He deserves it.
We should say this was written by Fabian Nicieza, who is the co-creator of Deadpool, writer of X-Men.
I was like, that name sounds familiar, but that is why.
Turned down an appearance at one of our comic conventions, but we won't hold that against him. Anyway, okay,
Never
go
mind.
ahead, Bex.
I will.
Busy man.
I'm the guest. I'll do it.
But I just love...
I said, well, he's a busy man. But also, like, that's another thing I found, too, when I was reading it, now that you mentioned it. Now, when I was reading, I was like, hey, why do I like this one a lot? Who wrote this? And I flipped back, and I saw his name, and I was like, okay.
Well,
he's a good writer. He's a good writer.
Well, yeah.
The writing's really... There's a lot of people talking in this comic, and I feel all of their personalities, like, immediately. There's that one panel where, like, Mrs. Muggins first comes into the apartment, and it's, like, a big wide shot of everybody, and everyone says one thing, and you know exactly who they are. They don't, like, say, like, oh, so-and-so, blah, 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 Betty Brandt, like, you know that's Betty back there. It says she's like, oh, I'm feeling a lot better because her husband's just been revealed to be the Hobgoblin and is dead, and she had a nervous breakdown. Or like you could tell one of Mary Jane's friends is like, oh, Naggle on the wall. Of course she's got fancy artwork on the wall. It's Mary Jane's apartment. I was like, whoever this lady is. And you have Flash Thompson's there. I love that Mr. Muggins is also hitting on his wife's niece, right? Because Candy is Mrs. Muggins' niece, right?
Yep.
So like just super gross. And she's also just wearing underwear and fishnets to a house party next door. Yeah. Shout out to her. living her life to the fullest. Like,
Also-
she's got heels, leg warmers, fishnets, and underwear.
I
No,
think
it's
Also, did anybody notice also that 10 years before the buyout, Sony's brand is front and center in this comic?
Yeah.
And Coca-Cola.
And yeah, exactly. But the fact that Sony then bought Spider-Man the movie rights 10 years later,
Good
it's
point.
almost like this has been in the works.
I
Still
feel
haven't
like
done
I've
anything with-
seen this as well before.
This story?
That panel
With
with
Maybe.
with the big Sony lettering. I feel like I've seen that Hobgoblin panel with him flying around the big Sony building.
Well, wait a minute. Isn't that just Times Square, though? Am I wrong?
Oh, maybe. Maybe.
It
was
is,
probably
yeah.
just referenced a million times.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's probably
okay,
what it was.
okay,
yeah.
okay.
Because they're right next to the Lincoln Tunnel. I don't know. Maybe this was the exact advertising structures that were going on
Possibly.
in 88, right?
Yeah,
Or
that's
for
true.
however how long. But yeah, I thought the issue worked really well. I thought it was obviously it's just like a one-off fill-in or whatever. It doesn't make sense in regards to the next issue we'll read because of the whole like just partying in this apartment. Unless
Right.
this party takes place before.
It does. Yes, it does. Because he
Okay.
still has the black costume here, so it definitely takes place
Right.
before. Yeah.
So it takes place before, so that makes a little bit more sense. But it's like, I don't know. The continuity's a little iffy.
Like with
yeah,
the
no,
motivation for moving?
Yeah, because it's like at first, like last issue, I think they were talking about just moving into this big ritzy apartment, and then Mary Jane's like, "We gotta move out now." And it's like, okay, well, we were already moving out, so
Right.
I don't know. We'll talk about it next issue more, but it's just it was a fun little romp. Hobgoblin gets just absolutely wrecked, and Peter has a good time. So you know, and you know what? He deserves it. He has so few good times.
That's true. And you know what? And one of the key ingredients, I think, is the artwork, which we've talked about Alex Saviuk before, Becca. And I think we all like him. But Andrew, what did you think about the artwork in this issue?
The artwork I thought was great. I mean, like I was saying before, the visual storytelling is fantastic, but it's also, I don't know, there's something about it that seems consistent with Marvel's style for that time period, which I feel is a problem. I don't know if it's a problem with modern comic books lately, but you go between different titles and it can be jarring sometimes how different the art styles are. Especially if it's a continuous story. But yeah, I liked it very much. I can almost smell the pages, to be honest, looking at them, and just remembering the smell of newsprint. It's nice to not see faded circles where Silly Putty had once been. But so they got some pretty good scans.
Yeah, that's because this is taken directly from the comic. As you can see the little dots, right? You can see the off, like the color that's not quite lined up with the black lines, which is part of the charm.
Yeah.
And yeah, the art in this issue, it totally lends itself to the story because, you know, they're at a party and the artwork combined with what's going on just makes you feel happy, right?
Yeah, very much.
It has a very, actually, Alex Saviuk has a very Silver Age 1960s vibe, I think. So it feels like even though this is 80s, it feels like an even older comic to me. Mm-hmm. But anyway.
Fun fact, the band that comes to play at the apartment is an actual band.
Oh, really?
But like probably lesser known, because he says, here's the thing, I was just like kind of Googling, because they scream the words, "the scene of the crime." And I thought maybe that was the name of the band. It is not.
It's the Spider-Man theme song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the
Of
Spider-Man.
course.
It's in the Spider-Man theme song. But at the beginning of the party, the man who walks in, he says, "Hey, Pete, I'm Dick Wagner." If you Google Dick Wagner, he was in a band called The Frost, but he also was like sort of like a session guitar player in New York who played for like Alice Cooper and like Iggy Pop.
Guess who he also played for? He played on Kiss Destroyer.
Yeah. Which
That's
is
how
one
I
of the
know him.
best. Yeah. Like Peter Gabriel. I wonder if this band is supposed to be The Frost or if it's supposed to be like just other people he played with. Because that guy kind of looks like Alice Cooper. Like from a side profile. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, or it could just be
Literally
Interesting.
anybody.
Wow.
Because
Interesting.
and I'll circle back to art, because once they do like art that's supposed to look like people, it starts to look different, even though it's still illustrative. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like he keeps his style, but I think sometimes when cartoonists do likenesses, they get a little bit stiff. Is that what you mean?
No, it's not that it's stiff. It just looks different, and it shouldn't. Like, there's this panel where, like, just in the bottom corner. Oh, I know what it is. It's because he's working from photos. But anyway, there's, like, somebody pushing an amp in the bottom corner, and, like, Mary Jane has her hand on Peter's shoulder, and he's drinking, like, his 10th glass of punch.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, you see what I mean? Like, the style is the same, but there's something different.
Right.
I wouldn't.
Well, yeah, it's no longer just like him drawing from memory. It's like, oh, I've got to make it's an actual likeness. Look like Dick Wagner, whoever he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, okay, so we still have 2 more comics to talk about, but I think we all enjoyed this one, right? So the last question is, would we recommend it? Andrew, would you recommend this Spidey comic to someone that hasn't read Spidey comics before?
I would absolutely recommend it to someone who hasn't read Spider-Man before. I think somebody who is already knee-deep into the fandom may be like, wow, this is kind of a... Well, sorry, I was about to say throwaway, but that's a bit excessive. But for new readers, yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, Josh?
Yeah, it's a fun, goofy little story. I'd recommend it for like a casual read.
There you go. G.I. Jolie?
Yeah, obviously. Everyone likes a party. And
Becca,
a
do you like a
pumpkin
party?
master.
Do you like a pumpkin master?
I love a good pumpkin master. Sounds like a weird Halloween kinky thing.
That'll be the
I don't
hashtag
like
of the
parties.
week.
I don't like parties because I don't like to leave my house, but I did like this because it's a comic book and I don't have to actually go talk to people to read it. So yeah. 8 out of 10 parties. I don't know.
All right.
My rating system's all out of whack. I've been missing for 2 weeks. I don't even know anymore.
Okay. Woo! Okay, so now with that, we are going to jump to the main event. Amazing Spider-Man number 300. The first full appearance of Venom. Mm-hmm. And Bex Luthor, you're going to tell us what happens in this issue.
Venom's in it.
All right, thank you, Bex Luthor.
Any
Well,
of
first of all-
recommendations or?
Yeah.
No.
Andrew, did you know this was the first appearance of Venom?
Sorry?
Did you know this was the first appearance of Venom?
I did. Or, well, I guess he was in the last panel of the last one, but yes, this is technically the first one.
Okay.
Well, it's like the first minor appearance, the first full appearance, the first brief appearance, and then all of these comics are $600, so whatever. But yeah, speaking of covers, though, super iconic cover for Amazing Spider-Man 300. My partner currently has every single homage cover of this cover that exists.
Nice.
So that's
Really?
fun.
Nice.
Oh my god.
That's
cool.
really cool.
He sees an homage to Amazing Spider-Man 300, buys it in the cart, let's go. Like, immediately. And I'm like, so we have so many, like, just one-off comics of things that just the cover just looks like this. But anyway, so
great.
we start off where we left off last time with Venom has just broken into Peter and Mary Jane's apartment and has terrorized Mary Jane. She is the most scared we've ever seen her, and Peter comes home and he's still in his black suit and she freaks out and he's like, no, wait, it's me. And so she hugs him and everything, and she tells him that someone like broke into their apartment and he looked just like you, and Peter's mind immediately goes to the symbiote suit that he had. He doesn't know who was wearing it, but he knows that if it looks just like him and also wants to kill him, it's probably that alien suit. So, then we go back to Eddie Brock's apartment where he has only gym equipment and newspaper clippings of Spider-Man, which
Kind of like my house, anyway.
yeah, it just, single men and their decor, right? Haven't you ever seen those memes where it's like you walk into his apartment and it looks like this, and you turn around and leave? That's one of these apartments. Ladies, if your man's apartment looks like this, dump him. So yeah, the symbiote suit, it like fades off of him and he starts working out to get jacked. because he's not jacked enough. So we go back to Peter. We go back to Peter and Mary Jane's. Are they in the apartment or do they go to a hotel? I think they're in a hotel.
I think they're in a hotel at this point, yeah.
So Mary Jane couldn't sleep at the apartment. She's like, I need to get out of there. So they book a hotel for the night. And Peter's reminiscing about my favorite thing in the whole world, Secret Wars. And the whole symbiote storyline of how he got the costume, how it tried to take him over basically, how he got rid of it with the help of the Fantastic Four, and then how it broke out of the Fantastic Four's hold, and how he had to defeat it at the old church, which he seemingly killed it, but he did not. Peter is also super jacked in this, by the way. I'm just scrolling down, I'm like, whoa.
I was gonna say, in his memory, he's really remembering himself a lot more jacked.
Yeah, and he's not drawn that jacked in the rest of the issue, so I don't know.
No. I thought it was Eddie for a quick second when I was first reading it. I was like, why is he so jacked? Yeah.
He just is remembering himself being way more jacked than he is.
He's flexing. He's doing bodybuilding poses.
Just in the mirror of his memories. Yeah, so then he's reminiscing about how he initially thought he killed the alien, but he didn't. Mary Jane wakes up and asks him to come back to bed. Somehow, even though she has the most terrifying experience of her life, she's able to sleep. Peter wakes up in the morning and Mary Jane is in just the best outfit imaginable. She is in her wedding lingerie. I don't know what is going on with this sleepwear, but it's great. How does Peter not just want to sleep with his wife all the time? Anyway. Sorry. So Peter wakes up and Mary Jane says to us on the phone that she can get there, get them to move into this new apartment in this ritzy neighborhood, now, today. So she's really excited, and Peter's like, yeah, I guess that's cool. I guess I don't want to live in this creepy, dilapidated apartment that gets broken into. And she's very excited. So Peter puts on his suit and he goes and he's swinging across the city to go back to his old apartment to pick up some stuff. And he picks up the old sound ray gun that Mr. Fantastic had given to him to defeat the
symbiote.
The symbiote in the first place, right?
Right. He used it to tear off a piece to study.
Right, yeah, just a big purple gun. He Right, and then he checks his answer machine, and Aunt May left a message saying that, oh, you guys gotta come out to dinner. He's like, okay. So he puts on some clothes, and he gets ready, but he thinks someone's following him. So he Spider-Mans to the apartment, he puts on regular clothes, and he walks out of the apartment for some reason. And then so he takes off from the hotel in a Spider-Man outfit, goes to his apartment, puts on human normal clothes, takes about 4 steps, and then changes back into the Spider-Man suit and swings off.
It's a good point.
I don't know if it's because he thinks that somebody's following him, but it just seems very convoluted to me. Anyway, Eddie was following him, but he's not triggering his spider sense because the symbiote doesn't trigger the spider sense. So we go over to the new apartment, and it is massive, and there's a chandelier. Sorry, that's Pokemon.
I thought you were going to say Chandelorian for a minute.
I didn't even catch it, honestly.
Sorry, I've been shiny hunting chandeliers, I guess. Too much. No, there's a chandelier and a fireplace, and the apartment is huge. And Peter's taken some before pictures of the apartment before they move in for Mary Jane. And she's like, well, why don't you ever try fashion photography? I mean, instead of taking pictures of yourself all the time, take pictures of me. So Peter starts taking pictures of her, and he's like, oh, I'll never be good at this. And she's like, crap, I gotta cheer up my husband. So she just takes her clothes off. Which, I mean, it did cheer him up, so fair. Then after that fun little romp in an empty apartment, they go to Aunt May's house for dinner. Mary Jane changes again. This is a third outfit in one day. And MJ and Aunt May have a cute little conversation where she's like, hey, you haven't been calling us over lately, what's going on? And Aunt May confesses that she doesn't want to screw up their marriage by being meddlesome. And Mary Jane's like, we want you there though, because we don't know what we're doing. So they have a cute little thing there, and then we go back to Eddie Brock in the church where he first met the symbiote, and he kills a cop. There's a security guard in the church, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" So Eddie just straight kills him. Not only does he straight kill him, but then he talks about how sad it is that he killed an innocent man. But oh well. Too bad for that. Back at the new apartment, Mary Jane and Peter are moving in. They're moving all their stuff. Mary Jane has grabbed a bunch of favors from all of her weird-ass friends. And so for some reason they invited Candy, Mandy, and Randy, and Bambi, and however many of them there are, to help move. They're like holding like 2 little pieces of cardboard each.
Yeah, like, they made sure
Exactly.
to grab Peter's 2x4s.
Yeah. In his dissertation. Like, they're like, got it. And basically they're just causing a ruckus because all of the dudes that Mary Jane had to come over to help move can't like keep their eyes in their pants or something. I don't know. And then there's, what happens after that? Blah, 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 blah. All right, Mary Jane makes sandwiches in a 4th outfit. And then Peter and Robbie have a little talk on the balcony where Robbie said, like, they're talking about how before, when Robbie was like, hey, maybe you should stop doing photography. It doesn't seem like it's for you. And Peter admits he wants to go back into science. And then, I don't remember why he goes swinging off at this particular moment.
There's no reason.
He sees Venom looking for
Venom
him.
swing by, yeah.
Oh, he sees Venom swing by. Okay. I remember being confused when I was reading this too. I was like, is that Peter or is that Venom? So, Peter goes chasing off after Venom, and because his spider sense isn't going off with Venom, he just walks right into Venom's apartment, and he gets attacked, and then they start fighting. And of course, at this particular moment, Eddie takes off his face symbiote and starts discussing his motivations and backstory about why he needs to kill Peter. And it turns out he was a news reporter for a different newspaper, right? Anyway, he was doing...
Yes.
He was originally...
Globe.
Daily Globe, right. He was originally doing a piece on the Sin Eater, and a guy had come to him admitting to him that he was the Sin Eater. So he was doing all these exposés on him, and eventually he was going to tell the public who the Sin Eater really was. Well, it turns out this guy was just lying to him the whole time, and he wasn't actually the Sin Eater. So everything that Eddie Brock had written about was incorrect, and I guess the entire reporting community laughed him out of a job. So he had been writing like just crappy exposé articles since then. So he obviously hates Spider-Man for revealing the true Sin Eater and not this guy who isn't the Sin Eater. So Eddie Brock gets depressed, and he's like, I'm gonna kill myself. But then he says he's a Catholic boy and that's a sin. So he goes to the church anyway. Not exactly sure if he was gonna kill himself or what, but he goes to the church. And the church where the symbiote was not killed. And the symbiote bonds with him. And now he's Venom. The whole time he's telling Peter this backstory, Peter's trying to reach for the sonic gun, the sound gun. Mm-hmm. And just as he's about to reach it, Eddie turns on him and smashes the entire floor. We get a little bit more of a fight where Peter's like, okay, well, this guy has all my powers, and he pretty much like knows everything about me, so I'm gonna have to use my smarts to defeat him. Smarts being a big piece of metal. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes, right? He says he's like, oh, I gotta think my way out of this, and then he just grabs a big like a steel girder, and then shoots him with the sound gun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. I think he's referencing what he does later on.
Okay. So shoots him with the sound gun, but because the symbiote is fully bonded to Eddie now, it doesn't
do anything.
Fly off of him like it flew off of Peter. So Peter's like, well, crud, not gonna be able to do this. So he like yeets himself out of the building, And then Eddie just thwips him back in and gives him a big deck to the face, knocks him out. So then he wraps Peter up in a ton of webbing and attaches him to the church bell, and he's also dressed as a priest. Don't forget that. Because if there's one thing Eddie Brock is, it is a drama queen. And so he's tied him up to the church bell, and he's like, okay, I'm going to let the church bell kill you? Sorry, it's a little like, he's waiting for like the pendulum to like crush his skull or something. I don't know, but anyway, Peter busts out of this webbing that Eddie has manifested and stops the church bell pendulum from crushing his skull. And when the sound doesn't ring out, Eddie gets concerned, so he goes back up and he's like, hey, you were supposed to die. Don't know why he didn't just wait for him to die. And then Peter determines that since he uses web shooters and he makes his webs, the symbiote is making webs out of itself, basically, so it's running out of energy. So he just needs to get him to use as much webbing as possible until he doesn't have any more left and falls to the ground and passes out and lets the ground defeat him. So after Eddie has been knocked out by the ground and just falling to his own doom, Peter calls the Fantastic Four's headquarters. Or no, first he calls Mary Jane. And he's like, hey, can you tell my wife that I'm coming home? Cool, thanks. To this weird bellboy. And then he goes to the Fantastic Four headquarters where the Thing... Man, I have not read Fantastic Four in a while. The Thing is leading the Fantastic Four. Shout out.
And looks like that? What happened to him?
This is when he got mutated by cosmic rays a second time and got further mutated. And then the second Ms. Marvel also got mutated and became a female thing. She-Thing.
Right.
Go ahead, Becca.
That would have been a helpful annotation to have.
Right.
And you know how these comic books always have C-ish, Fantastic Four issue, whatever. That would have been helpful. But so I was like, oh, good job, Ben. You're the leader of the Fantastic Four? Wow. So proud. Anyway, so they put Eddie and the symbiote in another container, which it has escaped from previously, so sure. And Peter's like, thanks, Ben. And then he goes back home. And Mary Jane is very upset in a fifth outfit in one day. Peter comes home. He's like, I'm sorry, I had to leave, but I obviously had to go defeat this guy. And she's like, yes, I know. I understand. I'm being irrational, whatever. But also, that suit, I can't stand it anymore. Get rid of it. So Peter's like, this suit, tosses it in the fire. The suit that was lovingly handcrafted by my ex-girlfriend, toss it in the fire.
Right, I forgot about that, yep.
Yes, did you forget that the Black Cat, his ex-girlfriend, had made this suit for him that he's been wearing
true.
around his wife this whole time?
That's true.
Seems like he's been wearing it a little too long.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tosses in the fire. Mary Jane gives him the old costume that he got in Germany back when Ned Leeds was killed.
Yep.
So when he had to rob a costume store to get this costume. And now Peter's back in his red and blue suit. So now there's no more confusion about him and Venom, because obviously Venom comes back. Because the Fantastic Four can't hold things for shit.
And I gotta say, one side note, when I was a kid, I thought the reason they gave him back the red and blue classic suit is because it was issue 300 and they'd already been planning it. But the truth is Todd McFarlane only agreed to draw Spider-Man if he could put him back in the classic suit because he didn't like the black outfit. So
interesting.
That is why, yep. So there you go.
Is interesting.
I mean,
okay.
It makes a lot of sense if you're gonna have Venom as an enemy from going on, just as a clearer standpoint, right? Because there were a couple times when I'm like, who is this?
Right.
Yeah, especially right now, because Venom doesn't look like the Venom we're all familiar with at the moment. He's
with the slobber and all that.
Yeah, he's got the same Spider-Man logo. He doesn't even have sharp teeth or anything. His eyes look more almost human. They're not the spiky, elongated Spider-Man eyes. Yeah, so it's definitely definitely a good thing, I think, at this moment to put him back in the red and blues.
So Josh, why don't you, since you're already talking about this, have you read this issue before?
Yeah, a long time ago, but it's really nice getting to read it again with the context of everything else that's been going on in Spider-Man.
Sure.
It's I think it's a pretty good origin for Eddie Brock. I didn't realize that we hadn't seen Eddie Brock up until this point, right? Or maybe we have. It was like a long time ago. This is the first time ever.
It's retconned that he was doing all this during the Sin Eater saga. Right. We didn't actually see any of this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird how natural it feels. Maybe it's just in hindsight, like knowing Eddie Brock now in the comics because he's been here for so long. But it felt pretty natural to introduce this character that we've never seen before, and he has like a vendetta against Spider-Man and Peter Parker. I think that the Venom character and how he's like an automatic, ultimate bad guy up against Spider-Man, and having the symbiote remember who Peter was, so that way when it takes over Eddie now remembers who Peter Parker is, where his apartment is. Like, that is such a really fun, great idea for a supervillain. And like, he's not really like any other character in Spidey comics at this time. Like, there's not really anybody that's connected to him like this. So it's a nice new fresh way to make another character that's somehow connected to Peter Parker's personal life. Yeah.
And one thing I got to say, as far as Venom's look, I didn't even notice until you mentioned it, but I'm looking through every panel. He does not have the tongue.
Nope.
That's right.
It's just a smile. And I believe that was a last minute idea by Todd McFarlane. He's like, how about he just smiles? And then if you'll notice at the beginning of the issue, Mary Jane comments, she's like, he grew a smile. Like, she couldn't even believe it when she saw it, right? Because it's so creepy. But
yeah,
anyway.
There's a lot of like little moments in the art as well in this one. Like that first splash page with MJ like curled up, there's like a spider that's staring at her. In the bottom left corner, it's almost like she's cowering away from the spider as well.
Right.
And it's just like, I don't know, there's like small little things. Again.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Yeah, again, Todd McFarlane is like not the best artist at this time, but the best storyteller by far. Even like how crazy the panels are. Like, at the beginning, when MJ thinks that Peter is Venom and is coming back for her, the panels are all like distorted and wonky. Yeah. Like, this is not somebody that she recognizes. She is 100% in danger in her mind. And then as he reveals himself to be Peter, the panels start to like slowly straighten themselves out. Like, it's just like small little moments like that are so well done in this story. Even later on, when Venom like punches Peter Parker out, there's that like great panel that is just completely black. Yeah, almost as if it were from Peter's POV, and he was just like punched in the face and knocked out. Like, there's just so many great moments that I think help make Venom a scarier character and like a character that we want to see more of. So as far as introductions go, it's great. As far as like double-sized anniversary issues as well, it's really good. Usually by the end of those, I'm so bored, or like they just start shoving things in because it's like, oh, it's a big anniversary, we got to add in like all of this junk to make it a double-sized. This really felt like a solid story, and everything was there for a reason. Even like when they go on these like little side stories of hanging out with Aunt May and them moving into the apartment, and like, I don't know, everything felt just really solid to me.
Yeah, I agree. G.I. Jolie, what's your impression of this issue?
Yes. I agree. about Todd McFarlane. He's definitely doing some really cool things as far as the art and the storytelling are concerned. Just taking some risks, even though it's like super, I wouldn't say it's super rough. It's not, it's a lot of lines, you know? And I think this is like kind of the precursor of what you see today, where like, they came out of the 90s and kind of got carried on with like Finch and Fabok, who we
guys,
love.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
They're I would say that they're kind of more, they're better realized versions of what this stuff used to be, or what the art used to be. This is like a, you know, deconstructed early version. You know, things take final forms later. So the story, I could have sworn we saw Eddie Brock before this. Did we not? In
a cameo a week ago, but that's it.
So, but we saw the person who was in the cathedral. No, we didn't. I'm sorry. We didn't do. Are we sure we didn't see somebody in that cathedral, or did the symbiote just like sink into the floorboards? I can't remember.
I don't remember. I know the symbiote came back in Web of Spiderman number 1, but there was no Eddie Brock then. No way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
it's interesting that you asked, Julie, because the fact that Peter recognized Brock in this comic is strange, because if he hadn't appeared there before, Peter, you know, it was sort of like reverse dramatic irony. Peter's like, "Oh my God, it's Eddie Brock," and we're like, "Who the hell is Eddie Brock?"
Right.
And then they go through the whole background story. It's like maybe he was in there before.
Good to know, because it's like Dawn, right? Dawn and Buffy.
Yes.
Right.
You just put
Don't spoil it for people that haven't seen it, but yeah.
Well, it's been, this year's the 25th anniversary.
I didn't see it until 20 years after it came out, and you remember my expression when I saw Dawn. But anyway, we won't talk about Dawn right now.
He was angry too, viewers, listeners.
No, I wasn't angry.
I'm kidding.
I was like, oh my God.
I'm just joking.
Anyway.
But anyway, maybe it's like a Dawn or a Berenstain Bears thing. Maybe in another universe, was an Eddie Brock in the cathedral, and like that universe's Jolie is remembering it and recounting it on her Spider Cast.
Okay, anyway.
I don't know.
I love the Berenstain Bears reference. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Right? Also, okay. Sorry, my brain, the long COVID is getting me good today. I'm having a lot of, like, the cogs are working overtime. Like, I feel them grinding to a halt. This book is virtually perfect in terms of what it is. Like, you know, it's Spider-Man. Sorry. But, like, how did he get that gun? That sound gun. That's like the only thing I remember having a problem with, is that he's just like, oh, I gotta go stop Venom. Suddenly I have the sound gun. And then he explains it in the dialogue, which is something I really freaking hate. He's like, oh,
yeah,
good thing
awkward.
I borrowed that. Like, I just like popped by Fantastic Four headquarters. You didn't see it, but I did it.
I agree.
And I'm telling you.
You saw him like swinging away from the building or something with, And
I feel like maybe that's a fault of the writing.
Artist. I say that he probably, because these Image guys, let me just cut in for one split second. One of the reasons Image was founded is because these guys got so big that they were like, we don't want to draw what the writers tell us to draw. We want to draw what we want to draw. And if you read the first year's worth of Image comics, you can see the results of that mentality, right? Like, and this is the kind of thing they would do. They'd be like, no, I don't feel like doing that. And they would just change the story. Like, I don't want to draw a car. I don't want to draw, you know, a table. I want to draw a dinosaur. I want to draw a spaceship.
I don't want to draw.
So they would change the story.
Anything that makes logical plot points and sense.
Or that requires a reference. Yeah, so they would just change the story, and then they became so popular, the editors would side with the artist. And this is why Louise Simonson was fired from X Factor. Chris Claremont quit X-Men. This is why Todd McFarlane was given his own Spider-Man book. But anyway, it goes from there.
Damn.
Okay, that's fine. It was all right. I take back what I said about it being virtually perfect. It's like, okay, it's fine. It's fine. Okay. It's not terrible.
Well, you made a great point about the sonic gun, because as soon as I saw him with it, I just assumed that he got it from the Fantastic Four. But then I thought, well, wait a second. If he's going to the trouble of getting the sonic gun from the Fantastic Four and the thing's already there, why doesn't he go, well, gosh, Webhead, I should probably help you with that. Right. But he doesn't wait. He waits until the end after all the work is done. Thanks, Thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Thing is so busy hanging out in his Felix the Cat bathrobe because
I'm so glad you noticed that.
Men made of rocks need bathrobes.
I think that's a running gag in FF where they'll show the Thing in a bathtub and like Mr. Fantastic shaving while they're planning on how to defeat Galactus. I think that's just kind of like a running gag in FF. Like make them, give them feet of clay or whatever. But anyway. Okay. All right, can I jump to Andrew then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Andrew, is this the first time you've read this issue?
This is not the first time I've read this issue, and I'm glad it's not, because I feel like I got to enjoy it a little bit more. Because I read it as part of like a Origin of Venom omnibus kind of thing, and so I was kind of plowing through it. But yeah, I got to enjoy this one a little bit more. The thing about McFarlane's art from this period, it's always unsettled me, and it's in this case I think it's a good thing because of who Venom is, how Venom is. It really gives that feeling of I get skittish reading the comic and looking at the panels. I think, and I don't know if this is a color problem or an inking problem. I feel like the colors could have used more depth. But as far as the overall feeling of just being unsettled, I always liked that about this issue. The only thing the thing I didn't really like about it's interesting because, like I was saying before, my introduction to Venom was but at this point in Maximum Carnage, and then I saw the game, and then I saw the animated series. So Venom always felt like an anger-driven revenge plot, but here you really see the insanity come out, and you really see, but unfortunately, especially with the religious side of it, and the brutality of his punishment, it's just like, oh my god, he's gonna crush him with the bell chime. That's pretty brutal. But at the same time, Brock doesn't have a lot of depth in this point. He kind of reminds me of Rocco from Undergrads, and every time I see him speak, I picture him just, I'm going to get Spider-Man. Just a way, I'm going to get Spider-Man. But then once the suit goes on, he feels like more of a threat. He just seems like kind of this oafish brute whenever, like, just wearing shirt and pant sizes 2 sizes too small. And but at the same time, I also love, like, it's a great way to reintroduce the Reds and Blues. Like, it felt like a complete story by the end of it,
Mm-hmm. Good point. Yeah, you know, I've read this 1,000 times. I bought it off the rack, actually. Becca, I don't know if Josh will be jealous, but sold it for $3.
Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
It did not cost $3.
Yeah. But every time I reread it, I'll just talk about the story first. I love David Michelinie for many, many reasons. He's like the voice of Spider-Man in my head. But this issue, the story was not great. I like the intro, but once it gets to... When he meets, I like the build up, but when he finally meets Venom face to face, and Venom's like, "Let me tell you my story. You're gonna die anyway." He didn't say that, but he might as well have. For 5 pages, we get his origin. It would have just been nice to see a little bit of maybe Peter figuring it out, right? Like, it could have been like a classic, like, microfiche scene of him finding out. Well, maybe it's, and then he figures out it's Eddie Brock rather than just Eddie Brock. And then Eddie Brock gives, all this backstory or whatever. I didn't like that at all. Their fight was pretty cool. I thought it was a little bit awkward when Peter's like, well, I just kind of knocked him down, but I can't kill him because he's a human. I think I'll just take off. And then Eddie then, just grabs him and then knocks him out. That was a little bit awkward and kind of rushed. I mean, the climax was okay with him sort of breaking out of the bell. But I don't know. I guess overall, maybe it's because I've read it so many times. I mean, I do like it, but I don't think it's a great story necessarily. It's just a pretty good story. I mean, compared to the Web of Spider-Man we just read, it's about as good. It just happens to be sort of more well-regarded because it's about Venom, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Now, go ahead.
Oh, just I will say this too that I almost forgot to mention, is that I'm fairly certain that Dave Michelinie and Todd McFarlane were horny all the time, just based on reading this, because none of the women are wearing a bra ever, and of course the dudes are just super jacked. So either Todd loves the anatomy, regardless, or they're just horny all the time because they're always writing them into situations where MJ is making Peter feel better in some capacity or another.
Oh, did you also notice that line when she takes off her top and the narration says, slowly Peter's spirits begin to rise?
Yeah.
His dick!
Yeah, that's what it was, his spirits.
Becca, I don't remember, did you give your review yet?
I just told you what happened and then also put in my opinions a little bit throughout the way, but
tell us, so what'd you think of the actual issue, like your impression of it?
I read this for the first time when I was like 8.
Okay.
So I will say, a lot cooler when you're 8 years old. Not as a negative or anything, I think things are cooler when you're 8, and now that you're 30 and grizzled and life's hard, you enjoy Spider-Man less, unfortunately. Yeah, I didn't remember that he was so easily defeated the first time. Because I think maybe Josh can agree with me, but like my biggest memories of Venom are the TV show Venom.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then I read the comic books, right? And in the show, he is terrifying. Yeah. And yeah, he's scary in this one, but he's just like immediately defeated in the one issue. Like, and easily defeated. He just runs out of webbing and then falls to the ground. And then they put him in a little chamber.
Right.
And maybe at the time it was a lot scarier, but to me, I remember it being scarier than it was this time I read it. But other than that, I did really like it. I do like how the writers are incorporating Mary Jane into Peter's life more. That's nice now that they're married. She actually she's like, oh, I'm scared of this crazy Venom monster. So like, if you could change your costume, and like she has a direct impact in the things that happen to Spider-Man. Like, she's directly responsible for Peter changing his suit. Speaking of clothes, though, oh my god. Why does she change her clothes so many times? Like, I get it. He wants to draw Pretty Lady, right? Like, but I'm pretty sure this is all like the same day. And I think she has 6 outfits in this issue.
Is it the same day?
It's like 2 or 3 days.
It's a few days, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she starts off, she's got the blue striped leggings, and then they go to the hotel and she's in the pajamas, the lacy. I don't even know what this is. What bodysuit? Girl, what are you wearing? And then they're moving, and so she's in they're looking at the apartment, and she's in that pink outfit that she strips off, and then they go to dinner, and she's in a green dress, and then they're moving into the apartment, and she's in a black top, and then Peter comes back after fighting Venom, and she's in a completely different outfit. Meanwhile, Peter's only been in the one spider outfit the whole time. It's just... It's kind of jarring because it's making me... I'm like, how much time has passed? But I don't think it's been more than a few days. So I get it. You want to draw Mary Jane in pretty outfits, but every time she changed outfits, I was like, well, what happened? Like, what... Is it a whole new day? Is it a week gone by? Like, what's going on?
The thing is, though, I think I was fine with it because Peter's also in different things every time. Like, whenever she changes, he's in different clothes. So he's in different clothes. So I just assumed it was different days.
Oh, he keeps taking his clothes off. He's in his go swinging around.
At Mary Jane's, he has like a white shirt and tie, and then the next day he has the jeans and t-shirt.
And then he's in like the red jacket when he's walking in the street, and like she's in the pink dress when they first go there to take pictures. I had just assumed it was different days because they both were wearing different things. I think it's just more noticeable for her because she's like the fashion
front
model,
and center.
right? So she's always wearing something so flashy and in your face. But
Yeah, maybe I just wasn't paying attention to Peter Parker this entire issue.
I mean, I don't blame you.
Yeah, Eddie Brock is right there. That's not who you thought I was going to say, eh? Haha.
No, I assumed.
Bisexual trickery.
We've talked about, me and you have talked about the Venom movies enough where I could make that guess.
All right. So, unfortunately, this version of Eddie Brock is not handsome.
Fair.
I'm with Jolie. There are a lot of lines on his face that don't need to be there. Why are there so many lines? I thought he is like in his late 20s.
Yeah, it's weird. He looks like he's he's almost 50.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is in the book How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, Stan Lee and John Buscema, they say that every line you add to a woman's face adds a year. Well, in this book, McFarlane throws that out the window, at least with Eddie Brock, because you're right. He, like in this issue, more is more. Like he puts as many lines as possible on Eddie Brock's face. The only person that has as many lines is Aunt May, but she's supposed to be like a senior citizen, right?
Yeah, he also, puts as many lines as possible as he can, like on literally everything around.
Everything, yeah.
Wall.
That's his deal.
Yeah. Roof, church, spider
Great.
webbing.
There's a lot of lines on those webs.
He
I
loves
like the
web.
design of the webs.
Oh,
a
I
lot.
love them. Yeah,
I love the
webbing.
McFarlane webs, but I don't like how many lines are on it. And that like close up of Eddie's face when they're fighting and he's like telling his backstory. It's gross. It's a lot. And I forgot Eddie Brock had a stupid haircut for a long time. But that's
Well, just a crew cut, isn't it?
gross.
Okay.
Don't forget that by separation anxiety, or was it Lethal Protector? Anyway, he had the crew cut mullet.
Right.
Ooh,
That's better.
Ooh.
I love how crazy he is, and like right off the get-go, he's just batshit. Like immediately, he's like dressing up like a priest and making jokes, and like he's like gonna kill him. Oh, whatever, who cares? Oh, killed an innocent cop. My bad. Anyway, like he is scary in that sense of just like not giving a shit at all. But also the camp. Ugh, the Venom is, man. Venom is definitely a gay icon, but he started off as one, like for sure. The campiest motherfucker here.
You can kind of
I love
see
it. Like, there isn't that much of a stretch between this Venom and the Venom that is at the gay disco like rave with all of the glow sticks.
Right.
Like, it's the same character, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Yeah. So I'm excited for the future, and I did enjoy it. I don't want anyone to think I didn't enjoy it, because I did. But I like where the character goes from here. It's an interesting introduction.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I think from what Mike was saying, you didn't like how he was just like, here's my entire backstory. But did we really need another like 400 issues of like trying to figure out who a bad guy was?
No.
We did that. It was disappointing.
Oh, you mean like Hobgoblin?
Yes. Who
Right.
is he? Oh my God. And then they don't even know. So
Right.
maybe it's better that they just get this all out of the way. Like, this is who this guy is. Moving on. Right?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a... It would have been nice if they had this planned out to introduce Eddie. Maybe, because then they wouldn't have to have this, like, monologue of, like, who this guy is. If he was a character in the comics already...
Yes, that would have been better.
I think maybe that would have fixed it, but I feel like because this was a brand new character, there wasn't much else they could do besides give him some sort of monologue or like flashback backstory.
Right.
I think that's something the animated series did well, adapting Venom's backstory, because Brock was in a lot of episodes before he became Venom.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah, they do a really great job in the comics to like take the stories and adapt them pretty faithfully, but like rewrite them in a way where everything kind of fits into place, because they already have the story. They can kind of like go in and retcon it and like change it up for the
Right.
for the show. So yeah, that his origins in the cartoon ended up being what they went with for the movies as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Without the Spider-Man.
So I want to call attention to a few panels by McFarlane, because when this issue came out, it blew my mind. On page 4, that big close-up of Mary Jane when she's crying. I think that's a great shot of Mary Jane right after she's reunited with Peter. Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, her forehead is Neanderthally low with that hairline, but other than that, I think it's a great shot of her.
Yeah, again, the it doesn't necessarily look the most appealing, but it for some reason it shows the emotion more than a lot of the other artists, because they can't make MJ look ugly. She's got to look like a supermodel, so even if she's crying, she's got that supermodel pose, and they draw like a tear down her face or whatever. This just feels more real, even though it's further from like anatomy, like good anatomy.
You know, it's funny. If I could define a difference between Todd McFarlane and Sal Buscema, who did Spectacular. Sal Buscema, I think, is a more professional artist, but it's like all of his poses look the same. If someone's surprised, it's the same surprise look. If someone is recoiling, it's the same recoil look. Whereas with McFarlane, every panel looks completely different. So even though the anatomy is inconsistent and sometimes sloppy, you have to give him credit for that. Like even on the next page when Venom walks through the shadow and then becomes Eddie Brock, right? Like he didn't have to do that, but it's just those little creative touches that he adds in that makes it just so interesting to look at, you know. And we've already talked about the spaghetti webbing, which looks great, and how fluid the black costume looks with the way he draws it. But this issue, even though there are, like, for example, the panels where they're just moving, that looks like crap. Like, it looks so rushed and so sloppy, but it's almost like he just rushed through those so we could get to the exciting stuff, like with Venom and Spider-Man fighting, because then he puts all of his effort into it, I feel like, you know? Mm-hmm. So, like, all those panels, I think, are really good, but there are panels that are just really sloppy. I'm just trying to find, like, you know, the fight at the bell tower, I think, is pretty cool. Like, I like the way that Spider-Man bursts out of the bell when he breaks out of the webbing, and then the next page we have a long panel of the church and we see Venom inside the cathedral part or whatever, and then Spider-Man's leaping on top there. Like, again, just changing the size of the panels and experimenting with the design and stuff like that. I just think it makes it more interesting, even if it is sometimes really sloppy. And you know, there's one panel I didn't even notice. I've read this comic 1,000 times. The panel where Venom punches him out right before it says WAP, and then there's the black panel. You notice that is completely from the point of view of Spider-Man, to the point that you see Spider-Man's hand in front of his face.
Yes.
It's just such a great shot, eh? Like, wow. Very cool. Yeah. And he's like holding his costume like this. Like, what a great shot. Anyway. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about this. I mean, this is a classic issue. It's the first full appearance of Venom. It's Todd McFarlane's third issue of Amazing Spider-Man, so it's been analyzed to death. Obviously, I recommend this issue. It's a classic. It's not perfect, but I definitely recommend, if you're going to read a Spider-Man story, this is one of the ones I think you have to read. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a definite recommend for me. I think it's a really good origin for a character that develops a lot over time, and because he becomes a fan favorite, they're able to kind of like add to his story and his, you know, his character. So yeah, this is a good one.
All right, Julie.
Yes, read it.
All right, Bex Luthor, do you recommend it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that we're reading this just as like the King in Black saga currently is ending, or it's been over a little bit, but like it's so crazy that this is the origin story for the guy who is basically a god now. I don't know if anyone's currently reading Venom at all.
I'm gonna read Spider-Man when John Romita Jr. comes back, but
yeah. So basically, the symbiote god. There's like a whole just crap ton of shit's been going on, but basically Eddie Brock is a god now, and his son is Venom.
Who fires chain web, no less.
Yes, because it's metal as hell.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, it's so cool to see this like humble origins of Eddie Brock, angry reporter, and then watching him save the universe. It's poetic.
Let's sigh.
And I mean, if there's any comic that people have read, it's probably this one of Spider-Man, right? Like, everybody likes Venom.
Yeah, I like Venom. And if you don't like Venom, I think you'll like this Venom, because I don't like the crooked eyes or the drool. I mean, the tongue maybe, but I don't like any of that crap. I still think there's only 3 artists that can draw Venom: Todd McFarlane, John Romita Jr., and Steve McNiven. I don't like any other Venom. I don't like Eric Larson, Mark Bagley, all those guys. I think they're all terrible. But that's a discussion for another time. Andrew, do you recommend this issue?
I like Mark Bagley. No, I would absolutely recommend this issue. It's especially great, like what Beck was saying, how far Eddie has come and has been developed over the years. This provides a lot of context to that, not just as an origin story in general, but how Eddie actually grew as a character and started off as kind of a nutcase. So absolutely, I would recommend this.
Awesome. And with that, we still got one more to go, folks. This could be the longest episode ever. Spectacular Spider-Man number 138. And I'm going to tell you what happens in this one. I'll try to be quick. We've got La Tarantula and Captain America, not Steve Rogers, but Johnny Walker, punching out Spidey in his red costume. So this is good because we're following continuity now, right? Like the artists or the editors were actually keeping things straight at this point. So we start off with a pointless dream sequence of Spider-Man being attacked by Captain America and Tarantula, getting poked with Tarantula's
Poker.
We were all thinking it.
Toe blasters. He gets knocked out, and then he wakes up, and I guess he's daydreaming. And
you got Josh with that one. Damn.
Captain America's like, what is going on? What are you thinking about? He's like, don't worry about it. I was listening. Well, yeah, I agree. Whatever you said, yeah, I'm with you. So then they leave, and they're going about their business, and they're like running because they're going to go find Spider-Man. They flash back to last issue. Again, last issue, Spidey was still in his black costume, so they flash back to a friend of Mary Jane's named... What's her name again? She's going to get deported. Elvira. They could have picked a different name, but whatever. So the premise of this issue is that there's a bunch of people who have, I guess they're refugees, you could call them, but who have come to America, and they're political dissidents. And so La Tarantula is going to find them and kill them, right? Because they're against his government of his fictional South American country, right? So we cut over to Mary Jane, who's with the immigration department or whatever she is, trying to convince them to let her friend stay, but they say she can't, blah, blah, blah. We cut back over to Joe Robertson at the Daily Bugle, and Kate Cushing is starting to suspect there's something going on with Joe Robertson, because I guess she used to be what did she used to be? She was a journalist. A journalist.
So she's like my journalist intuition.
Right. So she's like, I know that something's going on here. So we cut over to La Tarantula and Captain America breaking into this prison, and right away we can see the difference between the two, because even though Johnny Walker is more rough than Steve Rogers, he's still not a bad guy, right? He still doesn't want to kill the guard. He wants to go easy on the other guy, and we can see that he feels sorry for this woman that Tarantula is intimidating. We cut back over to Tombstone, who is meeting up with a guy who was set up in Web of Spider-Man, who has the power of persuasion. He can hypnotize people with his eyes, but it doesn't work on Tombstone. But Tombstone wants to recruit him for the Kingpin, right? So that's a little interlude that does not get resolved this issue. It's going to come back later on. Another subplot. So anyway, Spider-Man is trying to figure out Peter's trying to figure out what's going on. So he's like, okay, I'm going to go and try and figure this out. So he goes out and he goes to the railroad yard where, I don't know why he goes there. Do you guys remember?
They get a phone call.
Okay.
Because Elvira tells Tarantula that she is friends with Mary Jane, and when she called Mary Jane, Spider-Man showed up. So they call Mary Jane again, and she's like, oh, okay, the train yard.
Right. So then Spider-Man goes there, and right away he's confronted by Johnny Walker, Captain America, who punches him out. Then Tarantula comes in, and there's this little fight happening, like in and around the trains. Captain America's throwing his shield at him, and it's, and he's but Captain America is kind of hesitant. He's kind of wondering. He's like, okay, this is kind of weird. I felt kind of guilty when I saw that woman in the prison cell, and now I'm looking at Spider-Man, and I don't know. I don't like the way that he's reacting to me. He's starting to feel guilty, right? So meanwhile, Tarantula is fighting Spider-Man, and he's blasting him with his toe, and he's kind of getting like weak. We can see like stars floating around his head, and then Captain America is like, again feeling guilty, right? And then we see Tarantula using that old trick where you get on one of those trains that has the pump on it, and he's gonna use it to like kill Spider-Man, I guess. But then just at the last minute, Spider-Man jumps. For some reason, Spider-Man has his he pulls his sock off. I don't know why, but he pulls it off.
His foot is stuck in the tracks, but it's just his shoe.
Okay, that's why I missed that. Okay, so then he jumps off and he swings around and kicks La Tarantula in the face. And La Tarantula's like, come and help me, Captain America. But Captain America refuses to help him, right? And he turns around and to walk away. And then he's like, wait, where are you going? I'm your ally. You can't abandon me. And Spider-Man's like, guess what, Twinkle Toes? He just did. So then Spider-Man goes back to the secret headquarters of the La Tarantula, where this American like CIA type guy was helping them, and he basically finds out this guy's a rogue agent. He has no legal authority. So so Captain America punches him out, knocks him out, and he's like, the flag I wear is supposed to inspire, not terrify. The day I forget that, Mr. South, I'll be just like you. One more sorry son on a garbage heap. Then he walks away, and then La Tarantula gets arrested and sent back to his fictional South American country. And unfortunately, so does Elvira, right? She's sent back as well. And so it's kind of like they don't really win the day, right? And so then Spider-Man's like, sometimes you have to settle for small victories. And Mary Jane's like, I know, but it's the small defeats that break my heart. And we see one of those classic images of, Spider-Man in the sky, like the ghost Spider-Man as the jet flies away. And then we end with a little, inscription from the Statue of Liberty, the poem, but give me your tired report, that whole thing. So obviously the theme of this issue, or the message, is about immigration and immigrants and all that stuff. So yeah, there you go. So written by Gerry Conway, drawn by Sal Buscema. I mean, in the context of the Spider-Man comics of this day, this one probably got lost in the shuffle, but looking back, I really did enjoy this one. I really like Gerry Conway, and I love this art, even though I didn't love it as a kid. But Andrew, I want to know your impression of this one. What'd you think of it?
This, I think, was actually my favorite issue. I think it was my favorite art too. There was something about it. The themes are still relevant today, if not more so than they were then. The art, I don't know if it was the jawlines. Everybody's jawline was it was either smooth like it should be or rigid like it should be. The anatomy was right, even though it wasn't as like chiseled the way McFarlane did it. I absolutely love the art. It felt like I was reading a comic book for sure. And it, I don't know. I think the way Peter connected to it, because it's just like, white kid who grew up in New York. It's just like, how do you relate his struggle to the struggle of the immigrants in this story, and how they made that connection. I enjoyed, and it felt more like a quote unquote friendly neighborhood Spider-Man story. And as sort of a side thing here, I'm not overly familiar with John Walker's run as Captain America, so I think the MCU interpretation gave him kind of a bad rap for me early on, but it was nice to see Walker represent what Cap is supposed to stand for. And, it's just like, okay, he's being very Captain America in this issue. So that was nice to get a peek at that too,
Yeah, I know. I mean, obviously, I agree with what you said. And again, as far as Sal Buscema's art, it's one of those ones I did like it as a kid, but I was dazzled by McFarlane's art. And so I looked at Web and Spectacular as kind of like, I'll buy these because they're Spider-Man, but I really just want to read Amazing, right? But now, as a kid, I think this story does hold up better And you mentioned the art, like the anatomy is consistent, even though it's maybe not as there's not as much flair to the panel layouts. I think it's more professional. Like, this guy is a 20-year veteran at this point, and you can see it. Like, he does. I mean, maybe that's also to a fault. He treats it more like a job, but at the same time, he's telling the story clearly, and he's getting better as he ages, I think, which unfortunately the image artists really didn't. They kind of got worse as they went along. So yeah, and you could, again, like you talked about, the message of this issue is even more relevant today. The two other Spider-Man comics were a lot of fun, but this one, the story, it's almost the more adult, I guess, of the three, right? I would say. Anyway.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, let's jump to Bex Luthor. Bex, what did you think of this one?
I didn't dislike it.
Okay.
Well, it's I think, what was it? It's like a commentary on the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986. Specifically. That's what Wikipedia says anyway.
Mm.
In the Reagan administration? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, did I remember? Presidents are so hard to remember. There's just so many old white guys. Which one's which?
Well, I mean, it's not Obama, so.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Any of the other ones. It's okay. So, like, I don't know. It just left a weird taste in my mouth because it's like, at the end of it, we feel bad, and then Peter and Mary Jane are sad. It's like, yeah, but it's Elvira who's going to her deathbed. I don't know. It's very like, what are we gonna do about? I don't know how to word this right. It just feels awkward. Like, honestly, it's written in the 80s. I don't know how much experience the writers have with immigration, but it kind of seems awkward to me. And then the thing with Captain America, you're just shoving Captain America in there because it's about immigration. And like, God, Johnny is an idiot. He didn't like double check that this guy was like you just take orders from anyone in a suit. It's like, hey Cap, we need you to come with this guy. Oh, is he a terrorist? Definitely, nope, definitely not.
Okay.
This guy with the twisty mustache, not a terrorist for sure. He has poisoned feet? No, that's weird. Why would you even say that? That's not a thing.
Those are just his toe blasters. It's nothing to worry about.
Yeah. It's just totally normal in the country of wherever he's from.
Everybody has those. Come on.
Yeah, they just shoved him in there because they're like, oh, we're going to tell a story about immigration. Better put Captain America in there so that the reader's like, oh, but America's freedom for all. And then the actually isn't. Because she's getting deported. I don't know. It just seems very awkward. And then like the whole like defeat of the tarantula, it's not even like they don't even have like a defeat. He just like throws him on the train tracks and Captain America leaves.
Right.
Yeah.
Got him.
Yeah.
That was a bit disappointing. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah, thanks for nothing, Cap.
It's 2 issues of like, oh, what's the tarantula? He's like, there's been so much buildup for this tarantula, right? The last like so many issues, there's been so many interludes of like him in his home country and like the government slaughtering its people, and like this is how it goes out. I don't know. I was a little bored, I think, was my problem. But I'm excited to see Karen Cushing's investigative journalism with Tombstone and Robbie and see their backstory. That's fun.
It better come early,
I guess.
or soon.
Yeah.
Like next issue, damn it. Because I too was bored with this one.
Yeah, and then like the whole thing with this Roland guy, I'm glad Roland Rayburn has so much exposition when Eddie Brock got none.
Yep.
Screw this guy. And there's so much, it doesn't pay off. Spoiler alert. I know what happens.
See, now I'm intrigued.
No.
I gotta read ahead.
There's no intriguing. It's just, I don't know. This was the weakest of the 3 for me, I think. I enjoyed Web of because I thought it was fun. I enjoyed Venom because it's Venom. And then this one was just like a heartfelt after school message that didn't really hit home to me.
Josh, what did you want to say?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. I really appreciate the message and how this was a more serious tone, and they're talking about serious like themes, and it's very topical both for the time and today. I just felt like, kind of echoing what Beck said, there was a lot that was just kind of in there because it's like, oh, it's a commentary on America, so let's put Captain America in here. Why is he here? I don't know. Some guy told him to go on this mission, I guess. So he's just kind of like tagging along with Tarantula. Like there's no point of him even being there. And then in that final confrontation, he just watches it happen. Like it would maybe be different if he was like in the fight and you can see more of like a divide of like, I'm punching Spider-Man and then something happens. He's like, wait a second, I'm punching Tarantula, and he's like caught in between. He doesn't know like who is right and who is wrong in this situation. Like he's following orders and he's following what's like what the laws are with like immigrants and deportation, but is it the right thing to do? Is it the moral thing? So like that is such a strong, interesting topic and theme to explore. I just feel like we just saw him staring at them on top of a train the entire time, and there's no reason for that character to even be there. And then again, I'm not going to talk about this too much because I say this lately. I've been saying this every issue of Spectacular, but these weird interludes suck. They don't have anything to do with this story, and they're like teasing what's happening next, and it's like, do that as a teaser at the end. You're cutting into the action and the flow of this story, and it's just so jarring. But yeah, I don't know. It was fine. I didn't hate it. I just thought it was like, I was just disappointed because I wanted it to be so much better, and it had the potential to be like a really good story, but it just felt like things were there.
Yeah.
G.I. Jolie, did you give your review yet?
No.
What'd you think, G.I. Jolie?
The immigration story was the worst part. It was the worst part of the first half of the book, which was last week's episode. Because it just felt like they're shoehorning a Mary Jane story in. I mean, we liked it though, right? I say it's the worst part because I'm just trying to be as like bitchy and shady as possible. Because like it's just because like Becca said it. It's like it doesn't matter what fucking happens, because like you're. No amount of them being white is going to save this woman from like eventual death.
Yeah,
she still gets deported, and it's like I'm kind of mad about it because they're standing there and they're like white and sad, and he's like, it's okay, because of what we did, her family will be safe from reprisal. No, they won't. They will die the moment they get off that plane, and you know it. She was not safe. She was not safe. Like anyway, the immigration is obviously a very heated subject for me. So, and they end up deporting La Tarantula, which, okay, cool. He's a criminal. Usually criminals
on the same flight
get to
on the same flight.
They're sitting next to each other on the plane.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's awkward.
Right? It's like, oh, like I'm the model minority coming in to America to like get the illegals out for you because I'm the model minority. But everyone who's brown gets deported anyway. And isn't that just the story? Mark this one controversial, folks. Get us shadow banned. I don't know. Like, I don't want to say leave these stories out of the comics because it's very important that people who read comics should also read stories about current events or that kind of lie around current events. But like, can we write them better? I don't know.
Maybe people in these situations can tell their stories as well. That might help with like telling that story.
Yeah.
It is very strange because I think that if this story was about her more,
like Elvira.
Yeah. And we got to actually see her say goodbye, or like have her, like the sad ending be from her point of view instead of Peter and MJ's. Like, I know it's a Spider-Man comic, but I think that for me is where it feels weird, is that we're seeing it from the point of view of American citizens, white American citizens, feeling bad. Oh, I'm bummed that my, foreign friends are getting deported.
Yeah.
Like, it just, there's something missing.
Yeah. Like, we even have like Johnny Walker, Captain America. We even have his white tears. Because he's just like so confused. I don't know whose side I'm on. Like, I'm supposed to stand for good, and like I can't even tell the difference between good and evil. And God damn it, he's so lawful good in this. It's like sickening. I can't.
Yeah, it's like for all the white characters in the comic, it's just like after that issue, it becomes so inconsequential. I get what you're saying. It's just like, okay, well, back to my white life.
Yeah, and that's exactly. Andrew is right. Back to that life. They're like, immediately after this issue, we're gonna forget about it. And I know that they can do it, and I know that they should just tackle it head on. Because what other issue was it just really where it was like it really hit home, like a kid died? Which one was that one?
Oh, well, that was the one with the kid got shot by the SHIELD agents, you mean?
Something like that. It was just like so jarring to us that it was like, I can't believe this isn't comics. Like a kid had cancer or something.
Right.
And it's just like, cool, if you're going to kill children, show us brown people getting deported. Like, show us the reality of brown people getting deported. This woman would be in tears. She would be ripped apart from her family. Her family would be separated from her. Like, she would still be someone's maid. I don't know. Like, come on. Anyway.
Yeah, they show her getting on the plane, but not when it arrives.
Exactly. If it ever arrives at all. Like, exactly. Show the real shit. If they did this, say, well, I mean, Spider-Man's brown, so never mind. I'm happy.
There you go.
Yeah.
I just love that Spider-Man breaks so many laws in this book, but he just can't, like, grab her off the plane.
Yeah.
Get her from jail.
That's a good point.
Dude.
Yeah.
It's like, at what point is it too far to break the law? Like, you could take the law in your own hands. You know this is wrong, but you have to let the due process take its course. Why? Why is it this refugee that's the line? Like, oh, that's illegal. I can't do that, even though you know it's wrong. That she's being sent to her death.
Qui-Gon Jinn, we're not here to free slaves, right? Ooh, that's pushing it too far. Yeah.
Yeah, Qui-Gon, why aren't you here to free slaves? Maybe do something useful once. Right. Oh, you're gonna die instead? Cool.
Yeah, loser.
Get
Dumb
over
dead
it.
idiot.
It's very like, and then they have the poem at the end too, just to like, oh, America's the land of the free. No, it isn't. This woman is going to be dead. Cool. Well, bring in your sick and your poor, but only if they're white.
Well,
yeah, that part was a little much.
But the point is that Gerry Conway is obviously showing that the new law is a bad thing, and that what happens is a bad thing, right? So he's saying, if this is what the Statue of Liberty is asking for, why is this not reality? I think that's what he's obviously saying, right?
Yeah, it's just awkward and clumsy and very white. And I'm white.
Yeah. For anyone who's only listening to the audio podcast, there's only two of us who are not. Well, I mean, one of us is half.
I'm a halfie, yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I'm white. Jolie's not. She has final say.
No, I don't.
That's what it means.
No, I call for war.
There you go.
Anyway, it's just This one's the weakest of the three for me, just because it is tackling something more serious, but in a clumsy way.
Mm-hmm.
Also, frickin' La Tarantula sucks.
Yeah, there's a lot
Well,
of build up to like nothing, eh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it should speak volumes about how much he sucks, the fact that Captain America had to help him, and that's the only reason Spidey had some trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And he's not even like the original Tarantula. Boo.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's even like a super soldier. Like he was. We have like issues and issues of like little snippets of him like going through the process of being trained and then getting like injected to be like extremely powerful, and it's still he's like using one of those freaking train crank things to try and defeat Spider-Man. What is happening? This guy does stink.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. Yeah.
Like, you're a super soldier, dude. Come on.
So I guess we have a difference of opinion because I think me and Andrew thought this was the best issue, and you guys all thought it was the worst.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it wasn't awful.
To be fair, I get why.
Yeah.
I get why you both don't like those, and those are great points. Great points. And so, but it's those kinds of issues that create this debate in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And the conversation is being had too. Like, we're now talking about this shitty time that was happening in the 80s and shitty things that still happen today. So, like, I mean, I guess technically it was still successful, and I give them props for trying to talk about these issues, even if it wasn't so successful in like really showing the reality of it. At least for me, right? So,
yeah. Like, it was way more dangerous for them to talk about it in comics in the 80s, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I acknowledge that. So
that's true.
that they're even doing it is like, you know, like the way that they tackled the war on drugs and whatever. It's like, wow. Like, it's not anything revolutionary. It's just what they could do with the platform that they have. And like, thank you for doing it, even though it's a little ham-fisted in some points. And like, La Tarantula kind of blows, but whatever. His sharp little foot blasters are cute.
And I mean, what is the, like, we're seeing it as the context of like, we are currently all very informed of the global situation. Like,
very true.
You have to
exactly. You read my mind on that for sure.
To not know what's going on in the rest of the world. Like, there is like literally in other places in the world, people are live streaming what's currently happening to them right now, right? Like, you can't lie about it. So in the 80s, and you're a writer in New York City, how much do you know about the struggles of immigration other than what people have told you?
Right.
So
Where, I mean, I'm not saying like that's an excuse, but like it's probably a lot more challenging to get firsthand recollections of things in the 80s than it would be today, where you could just literally watch somebody tell you what's happening. Right.
Well,
Story sucked and Tarantula can eat a dick.
so
12
Andrew,
dicks, a
do you
bag of them.
recommend this issue?
Hold on.
Yeah, it's weird. I loved it, but I would recommend this issue. The one thing I realized I didn't like, or I liked it as a, sorry, hold on a sec. I liked it as a comic reader in the sense that it made me, I actually went back and read the issue beforehand.
Interesting.
So I think, so it's kind of hard to keep in context. Oh, wait, no, this happened in the issue before and this happened in this issue, so stay focused. But if you're a new reader, it might be a little bit jarring because there's too much happening at once before and after. So, I would recommend it, not necessarily to new readers, though.
Okay. Josh, what about you?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think jumping into this issue is very strange. I don't know. It falls flat for me. I think that if you're interested in reading a comic book that it does talk about serious issues, this might be a good one to pick up. I just think that it kind of fell flat with the story that they were trying to tell, adding in characters that really didn't feel like they should have been there. So it's kind of like a weird half recommend for me. Like as a piece of history, I think it's pretty interesting, but as a comic and a story, it doesn't hit home for me.
Okay. G.I. Jolie.
In the context of Spider-Man and reading Spider-Man, I give it like a half-hearted recommendation to read it. The whole story, yes. If you are a La Tarantula stan, I don't know. Like, you might not get what you need from this one. Not sure. If you are reading this in the context of you're doing research for the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986, then yeah, you can be like, this is how different industries tackled trying to understand and come to terms with these issues. For example, Spider-Man. Like, if you're writing a paper, this would be the most interesting part of that paper to me. And I would be like, yeah, read it, because this is crazy that they even talked about this in comic books at the time. Like, right?
Nice,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it's just like it's like more interesting as a cultural artifact. You're kind of saying, right?
Correct. So yeah, like it depends. It depends on how you're looking at these things, how you are reading Spider-Man. For a podcast, if you too are doing a full Bronze Age read, then sure, yes, 100%. I recommend this as one of the interesting sort of time capsules in Spider-Man's history.
All right, Bex Luthor.
Yeah, just because I didn't like it doesn't mean it doesn't have value. I mean, people like me.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
And I don't add anything to anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I agree with Jolie. It is more interesting as what it is versus what is actually happening in the comic book. I just wish this tarantula would also turn into a big giant tarantula monster like the first one.
Who knows what's coming?
But like, wouldn't that be cool? Is they're like, oh, immigration reform. Also, this guy's a giant tarantula. Like, that'd be cool. It's fine.
And John Peters should produce the movie adaptation.
There you go. Yes,
If
yes, yes, absolutely. Josh, did you give your recommendation?
Yeah,
yet?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, I do recommend
Do
it
it again, though.
I totally understand everyone's reasoning, but I still love this story. I love the art especially, but the story is good too, and I'm looking forward to more Sal Buscema in the 100 issues to come, because he draws them all. But anyway, that's it for this episode. A very long one, a very special one. We want to thank Andrew Banks for joining us after many months and years, I guess, of pleading. You finally came on as a guest, and hopefully we'll have you on again one time, right? That'd be great.
Yeah, I look forward to it. This was fun. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, for sure. We want to thank G.I. Jolie and Bex Luthor for joining us.
You're very welcome.
Next week is Go ahead, Bex. What?
I was just going to say something stupid. Don't even worry about it.
Go ahead. So please.
I was just going to say my busy schedule, I had to clear it just for you. So.
Oh, it makes us feel important. Anyway, okay. So next week is a very special episode. We're going to be reviewing 3 episodes of the animated series from the 90s, and our guest will be none other than Jolie's niece, Abby.
Ooh.
She'll be joining us. Yes.
Nice. There you go.
I'm so excited.
She's really excited too. We watched the first episode with Green Goblin. She already thinks he's stupid.
I cannot wait for Abby's hot take. I am with her. Go off clean.
Is this 1994 Green Goblin?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh yeah, nobody hams it up more than 94 Goblin.
Season 3, episode 5. He kidnaps.
Yeah, the email's coming tomorrow with the links. So yeah, it's gonna be a good one, folks. So please check it out. And Andrew will definitely have you on again. And Josh, you can take it from here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. It really helps when you leave us a review over on Apple Podcast, or on Facebook, or on Twitter, or on our website at thecomicbooksyndicate.com. Please let us know what you guys think about the issues we're talking about and the podcast itself. We want to keep that comics conversation going.
All right, until next Monday, see you later.